Welcome to Legal Briefs. I'm Wes Austin. I'm a lawyer keeping you updated on the latest legal news. All right, we've had some recent legislation passed in the House on gun control, and so I thought we'd take a quick look at the different pieces of legislation that we have. We do have the Second Amendment, which is the right to keep and bear arms. I'm sure that that's still going to be fine and intact. I mean, when was the last time the government has ever infringed on anybody's constitutional rights? I mean, that doesn't really happen, right? That's not a concern. And if the government was going to try to pull back on those rights, they would do that by having, a lot of legislation that tries to put up a lot of barriers around that. And, there are only 15 pieces of legislation that I could see that looked like they could be trying to do that, but 15 isn't that many. I mean, it's March already, and if there was a lot, there'd be, like 17 maybe. So we're only 15 right now. But why don't we start, and I'll just try to keep you reassured that everything's fine. But keep in mind, this is just a quick kind of high-level run-through. I'm not really digging into all of these individually, so just keep in mind this is a high-level run-through. So last week we had H.R. 8 that passed in the House. All right, this was introduced by Mike Thompson, Democrat, California. Now the bill name, bipartisan background checks. You may have learned that sometimes Congress gives things names and they aren't really what they're naming it. This passed by a vote of 227 to 203. So that sounds very bipartisan. So technically that is accurate. So what does this bill do? Well, it expands background checks is one thing. And then the other thing it does is it looks like it makes it illegal for anyone who's not a licensed firearm importer, manufacturer, or dealer to sell firearms to another person. So it looks like it is trying to criminalize private gun sales that, if they're conducted, that aren't part of an FBI background check. So that was H.R. 8. Again, this is a really high-level, quick look, so I'm probably wrong. But anyway, that's what H.R. 8 looks like. Now let's go into H.R. 1446. And this was from James Clyburn, Democrat, South Carolina. The name of it was Enhanced Background Checks Act of 2021. What Clyburn's legislation does is it extends the initial background check review period to 10 days. And after that, if a background check is not completed, then the purchaser would have to contact the FBI to complete its investigation before receiving authorization. So that's what that piece of legislation would do. Again, both of these passed the House just last week. Now, Senator Feinstein just last week, she introduced into the Senate Bill S-736. This is called the Assault Weapons Ban of 2021, and it was a bill to regulate assault weapons. It looks like what it does is bans 200 different gun types, specifically also ammunition, certain magazines holding more than 10 rounds. It also bans bump stocks. That is S-736 by Senator Feinstein. The companion bill to S-736 is H.R. 1808. That was introduced by David Cicilline in the House. Both of those have just been introduced. Neither of those have passed. Now let's move on to H.R. 127. Okay, this was introduced by Representative Sheila Jackson Lee. And her picture is going to be up for a while, whichever side, because she has introduced 6 bills that relate to different aspects of gun control stuff. So we're going to be talking about her for just a minute or two. The bill name for that H.R. 127 is the Sabika Sheikh Firearm Licensing and Registration Act. Also, another title for this is Representative Jackson Lee really hates anyone who has a gun. So what does this bill do? Well, there's a lot that it wants to do, but one of the things it does is requires a license to have a firearm and ammunition. It also requires a psychological evaluation that could include interviewing someone's ex-spouse to ask their ex-spouse if they think that they should be able to have a gun or not. You don't believe me? Let me show you the specific language right here. As part of the psychological evaluation, any former spouse of the individual to further determine the state of the mental, emotional, and relational stability of the individual in relation to firearms. Sometimes when people get divorced, it's because they're not getting along. And so asking someone's ex-spouse what they think about them getting a gun, I don't know, that seems like, I mean, they obviously don't get along, right? They got a divorce. So wanting to talk to them about whether they should get a gun or not seems like you're just hoping to find somebody who's going to say, I don't think they should have a gun. Anyway, this bill wants to have a gun registry that would basically register everyone's gun, make and model, where it is stored, the person's name. Oh, and it's also going to be on a website that's totally accessible by the public anywhere. You don't believe me on that either. Let me show you. The Attorney General shall make the contents of the database accessible to all members of the public. See, and there's no problem with that. That's going to be fine. Now let's say that a criminal, a hardened criminal, wants to commit a crime, and they really would like to do it with a specific gun. Let's say they're like, I would really like to commit this crime with a Desert Eagle. No, let's say that they say 429 Desert Eagle, and they think, well, where am I going to find that? Because I'd like to use someone else's gun, so it's not registered to me. Oh, if only there was a database online where I could just look up where they are located and where it is in their house, then I could just go there. So they could just look it up on the website and say, you know what? There's this guy named Randy 3 blocks away. He has a 429 Desert Eagle. Yeah, bottom drawer in his bedroom. Let's use that to commit the crime and then put it back. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it could be a very useful database for criminals to use. Also, it might be used to harass people who have guns, a way to shame them, or like, hey, if people want to protest people that actually have guns, hey, let's put this database online so anybody can access and just look it up. Let's go into HR 130. Again, this is Sheila Jackson Lee. This is the Kimberly Vaughn Firearms Safe Storage Act, dealing with storing your firearms safely, requiring investigation of reports of improper storage. So let's go on to HR 135. Again, this has just been introduced. It hasn't passed anywhere. Again, from Representative Sheila Jackson Lee. Its bill name is Accidental Firearms Transfers Reporting Act of 2021. This basically requires the director of the FBI to report on the number of firearm transfers resulting from the failure to complete the background check in 3 business days. Next is HR 121, introduced by, you guessed it, Representative Sheila Jackson Lee. This is the Gun Violence Reduction Resources Act of 2021. This is authorizing the Department of Justice to hire 200 additional agents for the ATF. Next, HR 125. Again, this is just introduced, hasn't passed anywhere. Representative Sheila Jackson Lee. That's right. Bill name, Gun Safety Not Sorry Act of 2021, for providing a 7-day waiting period before semi-automatic firearm, silencer, a bunch of other stuff being transferred. Let's go next to HR 133, and it was from, boom, you guessed it, Representative Sheila Jackson Lee. And the official bill name is David's Ray Hate Crimes Prevention Act of 2021. And I think this is for anyone who commits a crime against someone else using a firearm when it relates to a type of hate crime. All right. We are now going to be moving on to just a few bills that were not by Representative Sheila Jackson Lee. So we're done with hers for now. Although by the time this video posts, she probably will have introduced 6 more bills. And the next one is from Representative Al Green, HR 167. This is on the prohibition and transfer of a firearm at a gun show by a person who is not a federally licensed firearms dealer. Next is HR 30. This was introduced by Representative Bobby rush. This is the Gun Trafficking Prohibition Act. This deals with making it so that somebody can't purchase a firearm from a dealer or another person for someone else, I believe. Next bill, H.R. 225. This is to amend the law to more comprehensively address the interstate transportation of firearms and ammunition, introduced by Representative Morgan Griffith. And this has to do with a person who's licensed to carry a firearm. They would need to transport the firearm in a locked container that's not accessible from the passenger compartment of the vehicle. We're almost done. Okay, H.R. 748. This was by Representative Rosa DeLauro. It's also known as Ethan's Law, and it has to do with requiring the safe storage of firearms. Now let's go to the next bill. This is H.R. 647, introduced by Representative Jason Crow. And the bill name, Closing the Loophole on Interstate Firearms Sales Act. And this bill would prohibit someone who is licensed to have a long gun from transferring that long gun to a person that doesn't reside in the state in which that person's business is located. Okay, so that's my review. I found 15 pieces of legislation that we're just trying to help people exercise their Second Amendment rights. They may be trying to make it more difficult to buy a gun or to sell a gun or to store a gun or to keep the gun, and more expensive to keep the gun, and then also to buy ammunition and buy clips. But technically, even if all of these passed, it seems like you probably could have a gun, but I'm not sure how you would get it or sell it or store it or continue to pay for it. But technically, there's not going to be a problem, really. I don't know. It's just, you know what, don't take my word for it, because we'll just see where these go. But I'm sure these are just trying to help. And if you're interested in this, I'll look at how many views we have to let me know if people are interested in this or not. And if there's a lot of interest, I'll try to keep track of these. And if they look like they might become law, I'll dig into these more and look at the constitutionality of them. All right. Thank you for watching.